All right, our next unit is going to be about adding and subtracting decimals. Really, one rule that you have to follow in order to add or subtract decimals, and that's that the decimals have to be lined up. So notice that like the ones place is lined up of these numbers, the tens place, the hundredths, and so on. Now, if you don't have enough numbers, like in this case, if it's just 0.08.09, you have to add a zero, or maybe sometimes more than one zero, to make sure you have the same amount of decimal places. So you have to have the same amount of decimal places, and you can do that by adding zeros. So we line them up kind of vertically, like you see here, and then you just add from there. And if you want to be sure to make sure you have your decimal in the right spot, then just put it in there right off the bat. So it's just all going to be in a line from your problem on down to your answer. So 3 plus 0 is 3. And then you're kind of using your adding rules of carrying and all that kind of stuff. 7 plus 9 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 plus 0, and then the 1 is 3. 8 plus 4 is 12. Carry the 1. 22. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. You just line them up and add away. Okay. Same thing here. Notice how I added another 0 when I set it up down here. Added a 0, so we have the same amount of decimal places. They're all lined up. I go ahead and add away. 1 plus 0. And I'm going to add that decimal place right now. 6 plus 4. Carry the 1. And we have 11. So hopefully kind of getting the hang of it here. 1.937 plus 2.28. Again, I added that 0 there. I'm going to add my decimal right away so I don't forget about it. Got to be real careful because those small decimal places seem to kind of get lost easier. Okay, so 7 plus 0 is 7, 8 plus 3 is 11, carry the 1, 9 plus 2 is 11, but the extra 1 is 12, carry the 1, and 4. Okay, always make sure you're checking your work to make sure your answer makes sense. Okay, now that's adding, subtracting, exact same rule. You have to line things up. You might have to do some borrowing or something. That's nothing new. Hopefully you've learned how to borrow when you're subtracting before. But notice how we have here, we line up our decimals and we subtract away. So I'm going to add my decimal right away so I don't forget about it. 5 minus 4 is 1, 7 minus 7 is 0, 6 minus 3 is 3. Alright, same concept. Line them up, put them down there. 2, 4, 1. Now, this one might be a little trickier just because you got to do a little borrowing. So notice I had to add 2 decimals here, 2 zeros, to make sure I had the same amount of decimals as the 2.05. So, we're going to have to do a little borrowing. Okay, double borrow scenario. So remember, we need to make that a 10. Okay, which means we need to borrow from here. Okay, and so that's going to turn into a 9. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 0 is 9. Remember, we had to... And then 2 minus 2 is 0. And we have 1. Okay, 10.95. Again, you can always check your answer, make sure it makes sense. Last piece is not a whole lot new. We're just kind of adding what we did last chapter about plugging some things in. Now, on a multi-step problem, you kind of have to do it one step at a time. It would be my advice to you. So we have, let's just kind of rewrite it, 8.2 minus 5.3 if we plug that in for x and this in for y, plus 4.26. So I'm just going to take it one step at a time. 8.2 minus 5.3. So let's just get that out of the way first. Have to do a little borrowing here, right? make that a 12, borrow, make that a 7, right? So we're borrowing from the number next to it. Hopefully you remember how to do that from just normal subtraction. 12 minus 3 is 9. 7 minus, now it's, remember it's 7 now, minus 5 is 2. Okay, so we just did that. Remember, order of operations, we just go from left to right. Our next step is to add 2.9 plus 4.26. But we have a little issue. We need to make sure we have the same amount of numbers, so I'm just going to tack a 0 on. Since we're adding, we don't need to do any borrowing, so we have a 6. I'm going to add that decimal there, so don't forget. 9 plus 2 is 11. Carry the 1. 7.16. Okay, finally. Get rid of that. Could a 30-gram serving of cereal have 2.5 grams of protein if it has 2.9 grams of fat and 24.45 grams of carbohydrates? So what do we have to do? We have to add all those up and see if they're over 30. So let's go 24.45 plus 2.90. When you're adding, you actually could kind of add them all up. So let's, in one swoop here. So let's kind of do that. Practice might save you a little time. Okay. So when we're doing 3, we just 5 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. 4 plus 9 plus 5 is 18. Carry the 1. 1 plus 4, 5, 7, 9, and 29.85. So our answer would be yes. That would make sense because it's less. If I can, oops, my computer's dying on me here. Okay, so line them up. That's the moral of the story here.